how can your school do this when other schools can't? Do you think it's a mindset thing? Is it a priorities thing? Is there additional money floating around that you've just got secret access to? Like, how have you been able to develop this incredible model? Particularly like even just the giving over of the curriculum time in the mornings, which is pretty much unheard of for music. How? I'm Dr. Liz Stafford, and this is Primary Music in Conversation. This episode of Primary Music in Conversation is proudly sponsored by Aurora Classroom. Imagine all your music lesson planning done for you. Aurora Classroom offers free, ready-to-use music lessons and activities created with world-class musicians from Aurora Orchestra and fully mapped to the national curriculum. Whether you feel confident teaching the lesson yourself or would prefer the on-screen presenter to lead the way, it's easy to use, simple and stress-free. Teach music with confidence and save time whilst doing it. To access hundreds of free music activities, visit auroraclassroom.co.uk. My guest for this episode is Sarah Lloyd from Canes Hill Primary School in Southampton. A lead school for the South Coast Hub. I'm interested to hear about that role and also about the music that's going on in their school. So, hi Sarah, welcome to Primary Music in Conversation. Could you please introduce yourself to our listeners?
Hi, my name's Sarah Lloyd. I'm the music leader at Canes Hill Primary School. We are in the south coast of England in Southampton. We're an inner city school. We're a through primary school. We're in an area of high deprivation. Lots of our children are pupil premium, currently running around 56%, and we have a slightly higher than average SEND need across our school.
Okay, so some relatively challenging circumstances, I suppose. When we spoke prior to arranging the recording of the podcast, what I was really interested about was you said that you had kind of shifted the importance of music so that it like underpins everything else that you do in your school. So maybe we can start there with that kind of philosophy and that approach to how you are using music in your school.
Absolutely. So music is really important in our school. Like you said, we see it as sitting at the heart of our school. We see it as the plate that everything else sits on top of. We're looking for music for our children's self-esteem, for their self-confidence, for pulling our community together, for pulling our parents together, for pulling our whole school together. And so music sort of sits at the centre of that. Obviously, we've got really strong SLT who absolutely fundamentally believe in the value of music education and what it can do and bring for our children in holistically, as well as acknowledging that it's a huge subject in its own right. And so music isn't just used for those holistic benefits, but that actually is a skill that we believe that we want our children to become really proficient at and be able to become lifelong learners of music, to leave with that absolute love of music when they leave our school. What we just want them to have that self-confidence and that self-belief when they leave, that they know they can go on and they've got their ears open, they've got that internal pulse, that they can go and take part in music and it can become a really enriching part of their lives. So our aim always is to give that offer, but to hold music centrally as a school and as a team. And obviously that's not just me. I'm so lucky that the people that I have surrounding me and above me absolutely believe in the same things as I do. And so we can work together on that.
So you kind of mentioned the team there, and you've got kind of a mixed model, haven't you, for your curriculum delivery in terms of who's doing the teaching in various different phases?
Yeah, absolutely. So the having the staff belief and them feeling the same way about music as I do and as my head does is the most important thing. And they can see the value for their children and the reason why they want their children to be a part of music and for music to be a really strong part of their week. So that starts in early years. where I have lots of conversations and lots of discussions with my colleagues, but they weave that musical learning and that journey and those musical experiences through their week, through their driver. Music is a part of that. And I might pop in and out and see things, but I'm not part of that delivery. And that then follows through into Key Stage 1. So when we're thinking then in Key Stage 1 about them turning that musical play into playing musically, although I obviously scaffolded that journey and looked at the procedural skills that will be the driver for that journey, and thought around that, the staff then teach their own children. They work with their own classes. They look at how they want to break that down across their week. There are lots of discussions. There are lots of groups of us with instruments at the beginning of a half term in particular, all together and looking at recordings as the unit's going on. Lots of conversations snatched in corridors and lots of positive, yeah, you did it. At lunchtime today, there was one of those at the Year 2 team who just were thrilled with how last week had gone. And so being a part of that journey, but for the staff being responsible for that delivery and those outcomes is huge, because it means that it's not me doing it. If I'm not here for whatever reason, like, it doesn't stop, it carries on. And then that shifts then into Key Stage 2, where I am currently team teaching with my Year 3 teachers. So we're all in the room together. And so I might do parts of the lesson and then say to them, right, go on, it's week 3, have a go. And they're so keen, like they're just so supportive. And the same all the way through. I mean, I've been drumming with my Year 6 colleagues this afternoon. So although I'm leading in that learning, they are there with their children, which is really important, because if it becomes separate and music becomes something that they don't see and they're not a part of, then they lose all of those skills that their children can do, and all of those things where children have those moments to shine that they might not see in other parts of their curriculum. And the class teachers are there for that. And equally, if a child's less resilient or more emotional or needs something different, or a song brings to mind something for them that they need that space for, the class teacher holds that knowledge of the child, which I can't hold all of that about all of them, and I don't need to know all of that information at the different levels, but those teachers are there then to be with their children in order for that to be successful. It's really powerful, really great.
And do you think, is there a plan for you to kind of gradually withdraw out of Year 3 so that they can take full responsibility?
So there are parts of units where I'm not there and where they do other things. There's sort of always that working model, so that they might try things out on their own. They might come back to me. I might do some work with Year 6 of my own, depending on what's going on. But yes, it's sort of, it flips in and out. It's just the way that it's worked this year. They've been able to be with me for quite a lot of the year, which has been really fab for their development, and they've seen that whole journey all the way through. And so I also know that they have all those skills, and they've heard firsthand and seen how I would teach that, and so they're then able to imitate and replicate that moving forwards.
And then what happens after Year 3? So 4, 5, 6, how's that all working?
So in Year 4 we start our first access project. So we do a whole year of instrumental learning, so looking at the national curriculum through the lens of an instrument. Obviously I totally can't do that on my own, so I work really closely with Southampton Isle of Wight Music at that point, because they send me a team of phenomenal teachers who are just incredible, who bring in then a different skill set. Because we think it's so important, it takes place in a morning in our school, so that the additional adults are in school. We have the whole team come in at the same time. And I'll say now all of our provision all the way through to Year 6 is totally free. So if I start with the curriculum, what that looks like in Year 4, the children experience a concert, they look at those instruments, they get their hands on them, they rotate round and they try out each instrument to see which one they feel best suited to. I mean, we're only able to offer 3. So we're currently offering violin and clarinet and trumpet, which over the years I've sort of honed and swapped around different ones, and they are best suited to our children at the moment. I totally understand there are lots of other instruments that we could offer. And so they go and they try an instrument in autumn 1. And then they go back the next week, because building that resilience early on is really important. And I'm not a natural brass player. So for me, needing that second week to go back and pick up the mouthpiece and go, okay, let me try again, because maybe I can actually make a sound, is really important. At the end of that 6-week tour and trial of the children select of the most, and then most of the time we manage to make it work so that everybody gets their first choice. There are slight tweaks each year when 40 people would love to play the violin, and so we just have to have little chats, but the children are great with it and they're really understanding, and from that point on they then hold that instrument for the rest of year 4. And so they go through a journey where we explore. Autumn 2, we're looking at animals, doing lots of listening around that, doing lots of discovering sounds, lots of composing. And then my instrumental teachers are really clever that we all get together and we have this different structure each week, where some weeks we might start together and we might be singing, and we might be looking in around and doing things. And then they take that song and they go away and they teach their instrumental skills through the song, and begin to show, as the year goes on, they show rhythmic notation when we're looking at music for movements, and we're singing lots of different songs, and we introduce those rhythms again that we've worked on in year 3, thinking about that spiral all the time. So it's like the next step in their curriculum learning, but they hold that instrument. So we get that real deep understanding of their instrument. We play lots of things. I mean, it's not exclusive. Year 3 currently are getting ready for that project and working with ukuleles, but there have been lots of different experiences and musical learning that builds towards that point, so that everything is a driver towards that, so that when they get there, they understand how strings will feel under their fingers, and they understand which their left hand is for a clarinet, and how that might feel from their recorder learning that they've sampled before when they were looking at pitch and looking at where are the dots for pitch, so we do that through the recorder. So they hold those instruments for the autumn and the spring term, and then we get to the summer term and we put ourselves together as a big ensemble. So we drop in odd instrumental lessons. So last week our year 4 children were working just with their instrumental teachers after the holidays, so everyone can check that all the instruments are working. And then tomorrow we will all get together in the hall. Everybody's sitting on chairs. They've been to see the Welsh National Orchestra play at the Mayflower Theatre, which is near us. So they've been on a trip already this year. They've done a concert, small one's parents. I forgot to say, sorry, right at the start of the project, working with our parents is really important. So once the children have chosen those instruments, the parents come in and they share the next lesson with the children. So I have all 60 children in the hall. The parents stand behind their child. So it's the most people I teach in one go, and we learn the song, the first animal song, all together. So the parents are there, and then when they go then for the 25 minutes of the lesson to their instrumental group, they take their parent, and that's really key to our project, because the parents meet the Perry team. They understand how the instrument goes together. Krista's able to say, if a bit of your violin pings off, please pop it back in. She can talk directly to the parents, and it's made such a difference inviting them in before. So it's not a concert, it's not a performance, it's a come and be with your child. And it works really well. So then we get to the summer term and we learn to sing, to learn. Tomorrow we're learning to play a song, but through singing it, through knowing where the pitches go, the steps in the notation, and then going, okay, well, if that's my start note, where does that tune go? And so there'll be no stands tomorrow, no pieces of music, because we're going to learn by ear through singing and use that knowledge of pitch that the children have in order to work out how to play that piece of music. So through this term, then there will be bits where we play together, things where they go away and they work just with their instrumental teacher at this point on really specific instrumental skills, just quietly putting that stave notation next to what they're doing, just so that it's there, just as a part of what they're doing. At the end of year 4, then the children choose whether they'd like to carry on with that learning or not. And so then we move to probably more traditional small groups across year 5 and year 6. Small groups as needed. And if a child, lots of our children with EHCPs, we look at what's the best fit for them. And so we might have one child who goes with their adult and has a small 10-minute slot at a time that we've identified during the morning that works for them. Others, we've slowly removed the adult, and we've got a year 6 child who's in a violin group successfully on his own. He doesn't need that extra adult with him. And so the children then in year 5, 6 decide if it's a journey they'd like to continue. Based on the research, we'd absolutely love them to continue the journey. About 70% of them choose to carry on their own.
70%?
Yep, we don't charge for that provision. That just keeps going. They work in those small groups. We can't afford for them to swap instruments. You can sort of see why, having got so far. We need them to be resilient, but there are lots of conversations around that are really interesting about learning and about that hill, and it gets tricky, and you need to keep going, because the violin at the beginning, lots of them find much easier, but when they move to second position, lots of them then at that point are like, oh, this is really hard. And there's those discussions around helping them understand that sometimes learning's tough, but it's worth persevering with, and keep going with this instrument, because the skills that it will give you are so easily transferable to other instruments. That the fact that the Perry team and my instrumental team are here together on a Tuesday morning makes such a difference. And because the school pay for those lessons, it means we can be quite creative with that time. So currently we're pulling all of our children together. John, our brass teacher, who's an incredible musician and great at arranging music, has worked with the rest of the team to understand the notes that each of the children are really confident playing in year 5, 6. And so we're currently running ensemble sessions just for a couple of Tuesday mornings where we get all of the children together. My colleagues in school carry on with singing assemblies that take place at the same time. Like tomorrow morning, that won't stop. Those singing assemblies will happen, and we're so lucky we've got 2 halls. In the other hall, there will be all of us in there with our instruments, and we're learning currently John's arrangement of Pachelbel's canon, because it's got those repeating ostinatos. And the first session, there was one of our little ones in year 5 who's a trumpet player, who finds lots of other areas of the curriculum quite tricky. Last week, just was beaming because he was playing with everybody else. He's doing the same as everybody else, and he's part of it. We don't work towards grades. I've made a conscious decision that for me, the thing that I want my children to feel is that love of music, and to get that sense of when I play together with everybody else, what that feels like. Because personally, I think for me, that's the hook that will keep them playing. And I think if they can feel that and they can enjoy that and know that, we can use all of the local ensembles that the music, Southampton Isle of Wight Music provide, and we can signpost parents to taking them to those, and then they can continue that journey. And for me, that's what's going to make the difference. Lots of them are very capable musicians, reading and playing when they leave, but it's about using that research around changing the way that their brains are structured. You know, if they've done the provision for 3 years, in theory, their brains have been rewired, and so that's a permanent change that we can give them. They've felt that sense of playing together with other people, and they have that absolute love of music. So then how that shifts into year 5, 6, we've sort of got this instrumental pathway going alongside where children choose whether they're part of that. And then in year 5, 6, they still have their hours music lesson. They still have the half-an-hour singing assembly that's just for Key Stage 2, where we can look at harmony and part singing and all of those sorts of things. But I can bring across, in certain units, they can choose whether they want that instrument to be a part of their curriculum lesson. And so they make the decision for the whole of that curriculum unit. So our jazz unit in year 6, where we look at what that feels like to play a jazz piece, learn together, do some improvising. They decide at the start of the unit whether, after the first lesson with all the tune percussion, whether actually they would prefer for their instrument to be the journey, if you like, the vehicle for them to use during that unit. And so I can facilitate that. I don't want them swapping each week and choosing, because it's about making progress through what they decide. So once they've decided, we stick with it. But they're sort of used to that with me, like, decide if you're going to carry on for year 5, and they know when they say it's really tough that I'm absolutely going to talk to them, but that I really would love them to finish that year, and there's not dropping out and stopping halfway through the year. You said you'd love to do it for year 5, and if you don't want to play in year 6, I totally understand. That's absolutely okay. I'd love to know why. I always want to know why. But it's about making sure that they finish that journey and get to the end of that year. I think did that answer your question, Liz? I think I went off on the whole school journey there.
Answered my question, blew my mind, any of the above. You must be having an enormous impact on your local music hub and on your local secondary school, surely, with all these amazingly trained instrumentalists floating around ready to join ensembles and go up to Key Stage 3. Do you kind of get the sense of that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I mean, Southampton Isle of Wight Music have been phenomenal with the whole project, because years ago when I said we want to do it for free, we don't want to charge anybody, at that point they had an instrumental hire that they needed, children and families to pay each year to acknowledge that you do need to look after the instrument. And so I talked to them, and they've been amazing. And so for years now, that's been totally removed. So our children don't have that barrier, because I said, if you put that barrier back in place, I can't move past that. I can't give everybody the £20 they need. And so they've been phenomenal, and they've run sessions here. They send in, we've got the Southampton Youth Orchestra, they're sending in to play for the children. They've really helped with that journey, with helping us with them. And again, with our secondary schools, I'm in the summer, in a minute, I will be messaging them all going, hello, you've got this child coming, because our children don't go to one school, they split. We have one or two that are bigger. And so I'm in touch with all the music leads for all of the different secondary schools that they go to. And I'm like, look, they've done this, they've done that. That's been the part of their journey. Our closest secondary school, where most of our children go, have been on a journey with us over the past 5 years. They had a change in their head of performing arts, who I said, just come and look, just come and see. And she came in and said similar things to you, and she has absolutely transformed that journey. And so they've now got a wind band who are going to come back and play for us over the summer term. So it'll be our ex-pupils who will come back as part of that ensemble to play for us, which I just can't wait. I'm so excited about that, because what I do and what my team do here is amazing, but we're a tiny part of our children's lives, and it's about making sure that they know that journey can carry on, and it's not the end. When you leave us, it's never the end.
Absolutely. I'm going to ask you a question that you probably can't answer, which is, how can your school do this when other schools can't? Do you think it's a mindset thing? Is it a priorities thing? Is there additional money floating around that you've just got secret access to? Like, how have you been able to develop this incredible model, particularly like even just the giving over of the curriculum time in the mornings, which is pretty much unheard of for music? How?
I think the leaders that I work with hear the way that I suggest things, and also agree, and they can see the impact. I've been here quite a long time now. I'm sort of about 20 years in.
Oh gosh.
So over time, we've slowly worked, and we've tweaked, and we've changed things. And I've been so lucky with the leadership team that I've had around me, and so lucky with the opportunities that they provided me to go away and to develop and to work on different aspects of my life. I lecture at the University of Winchester. I'm part of the team there now, but only because my school said, let's go and try this, and I would come back. I guess it's me as well. I would come back and say, I've seen this, can I try this? And the leaders that I work for said, yes, here's some time, off you go, try it out, see what works, see what doesn't work. And I absolutely love my job, and I absolutely think that music is going to make the biggest difference. I can't answer how they found the money. I don't know how those budget meetings go each year. All I know is that my head says go for it, and every year I go, I'm about to do this, and she's like, yeah, absolutely, you carry on. Katie is just phenomenal. Like, I make suggestions and she just says yes, absolutely, and she's there at concerts, she's there in discussions. Like, she's a really active part of all of those things, making sure that it happens and it's right for our children, and that I have the time and space to do what I need to do. So I think I guess it must have started with me, and me pushing and driving. I don't really like saying that, but it does. It sort of comes from there, and then it comes from the fact that I work with this amazing, John and Krista and Simon, my instrumental teachers, are phenomenal musicians, and I couldn't do the Year 4 project and the Year 5/6 instrumental work without them. I facilitate, I make sure all the chairs are in the right room, I make sure the children are there. The music that John writes and the way in which the three of them work together, and I'm there as well, and we can work as a team, that makes such a difference. As for timings,
can I just ask you, because you're a lead school, like, how easy is it for you to support other schools? Like, do you feel that they might be intimidated by what's going on in your school, or do you think they're inspired by it? Or, because it is unusual, let's not beat around the bush. It is unusual.
It's really unusual, and I totally get that. And that was ironically one of the conversations I had before I applied.
So sorry, Sarah, we just lost you. You were saying that you had that conversation before you chose to apply to be a lead school.
Before we, because like you say, it's not typical of what lots of schools are doing. We've had a couple of colleagues from different schools come in and see the project, and I ran a session at the conference, the South Coast Music Partnership Conference. I ran a session on instrumental journeys, and so far the staff who were in the room were like, okay, this has legs. Maybe there were instrumental teachers there as well. And so between us, we were like, actually, how could this work? So far, it's been really positive. It is absolutely reliant, I totally understand, on budget and on that amazing team of teachers, and on somebody in your school having the time, or being given the time, to make sure that it's successful and make sure that it happens. And so far, I think it's been quite inspiring for people. I think because lots of my job is working with trainee teachers, and over the years I've done lots of training with class teachers who were generalist teachers, so not specialists. I would hope that the way in which I present things is not threatening and is really engaging for them, and shows that actually, even if you can't do this, let's look at what you can do, and let's look at how this could work for you. So far they've been really positive conversations. Obviously the journey with the lead schools only started for me last September, when we were all put into post, but we've been able to be part of the South Coast Music's partnerships, like away day. We were thinking strategically about how we're all going to work, getting together, all of us as lead schools from across the 4 areas was really fab, because we are physically quite separate, even though our hub's been pulled together. So actually meeting those people and talking together about how are we going to make the difference, what is it that we want to change, and then how can we support schools with doing that. The other lead school in Southampton, which is a junior school, doesn't do their first access as we do. So there is that comparison, and for us to say this is okay. This is not for everybody, and it might be that you'd like to go to this school and look at how they have decided to approach it, because there's no right or wrong answer. It's about what works for your children and what works for your staff. But the fact that our Year 4 teacher had a violin for Christmas, and she brought in her own violin ready for her lessons in the spring term, just made my heart sing, because she was so excited and was there with the children, but now we've actually got my own one. Even though we've given her one, and obviously she'd been playing on one, but it was hers and she wanted her own. That's just joyous. So,
oh, that's so lovely. That's just brought a little tiny tear to my eye.
Oh, I let her know. She'll be thrilled.
So I dread to ask this question, because it seems very unfair given all the stuff you're doing. But what are your plans for development for the future? What new stuff are you going to squeeze into your overpacked vision?
So I'm thinking outside. I'm thinking about what where's that musical opportunity at playtime, and how can I make that so that there's some sort of musical offer, in the same way as there's ways to access PE and all of those different things. There's a reading shed, there's all these different things outside, and I'm sort of in the middle of trying to work out where the right space is for that. I don't want to spend lots of money, not that I have lots of money or any money. I'm in the middle of looking for grants and ways of funding that, so that I can offer something at playtime and lunchtime for those children who want a way of making music together. That's totally, you're in year 6, but you'd love to do that with your friends together. What does that look like? I don't want to take just a box of things from the music room and for them to be part of just the offer on the playground, and for instruments not to be treated appropriately. So that's sort of where my head's at. I haven't got very far through that journey, but that's what I'm looking at next, is how do we offer that for our children throughout the whole day?
Wow. Yes, I suppose that really is your only little gap where there's no music happening. So that's a very strategic decision there. Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much for your time today. I really enjoyed finding out about music in your school. Good luck with everything that you're doing. It sounds like it's just running perfectly. And good luck with the lead school role as well. And I know you'll probably be, as effective at supporting the other schools as you have been at turning all your students into musicians. So once again, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Sarah.
Thanks.
Well, I mean, I knew to an extent what was coming because I'd done some research before recording this podcast, but even my mind was reblown at the amount of stuff that is happening at Cairnshill Primary School. Goodness me, they are so lucky to have Sarah with that kind of drive and imagination for all the different things that they do. I really like the strength of the model, where it's not just, oh, we've paid for a specialist and a specialist is going to just deliver everything, but it's actually training the other teachers, putting that effort into their CPD so that they can become more confident for delivering in their own school. And also, really important, if they go into another school which doesn't have the same model and they need to teach all of their own music, really kind of good foresight, I think, in that model there. And the way that they're running whole class, I don't think I've quite heard anything like that before. And I would say that is probably the best model I've ever had described to me. And that's coming from somebody who was involved in Wild Drops right from the start, and involved in the training program that the government of the time put together. So I've seen a lot. I have seen a lot of Wider Ups whole class instrumental up and down the country, and that sounds epic. So hopefully that has given our listeners some motivation for maybe going back to your SLT and going, would you like to listen to what this school does? And then when I ask you for like some additional betas, could you please not tell me that they're too expensive? And maybe we'll all get to a stage where we can get that kind of incredible provision happening in our schools. If you enjoyed that episode, you know what to do. Like, subscribe, all that stuff. Talk to us on socials at Music Ed Solution or Music Education Solutions on Facebook and LinkedIn. We would love to hear from you. Please do get in touch with us. And don't forget to tune into our next episode. They come out every Monday, all the way to the summer holidays. We'd like to thank Aurora Classroom for sponsoring this episode of Primary Music in Conversation. Make every teacher a music teacher with Aurora's fully planned resources. If you're a music educator looking for free and engaging music lessons for your school, visit auroraclassroom.co.uk to find out more. Primary Music in Conversation is presented by Dr. Liz Stafford, edited by Kay Charlton, and produced by Music Education Solutions.